Good morning guys. Today's video is going to be the May garden tour, and this is probably one of the busiest times in the year for a gardener. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the garden, go through the allotment, and show what's growing under cover as well. And then I've got some rather interesting harvests to make. So I thought I'd start the tour here at this bed because there's quite a lot going on. There's some signs of like different pests emerging, and there's quite a lot of harvests to do and some rather overdue harvests. So first I want to talk about some of the pests I'm seeing. So on some of these radish leaves, there's some small holes, and what that is flea beetle. And while I was here, I managed to see one. I'll get a quick video of it, but it's basically just a really small beetle, and it just makes holes in the leaves. It never really kills the plant or anything, but if you're, for example, growing rocket and things for eating in salads, it can be quite unsightly to have all those holes. So the only real way of dealing with it is to sort of cover your vegetables. But what we've got here is a few different harvests to do, and the first one we do here is radishes. Now I'll be honest, I've been harvesting radishes since April, and I'm sick of eating them. I've sowed so many, and these are like the size of small turnips now, so they won't be the nicest either, but probably edible. The tops I can either compost or give to the guinea pigs, the roots the same, and obviously the radish itself is really nice in like different salads and things. I'm just going to harvest some of these bigger ones because some of them are multi-sown, so I've got some growing next to each other. So I'll harvest the big ones, get them out of the way, and then just leave the little ones to grow a little bit longer. But like I said, I'm almost sick of eating them. Now, what we've got here, and I'll do a close-up, is my chard that I think I sowed last July, and I've got to harvest it. This thing is growing so so well, and I think it's where we've had quite a sort of wet May, and it just grown and grown and grown. So I'm just going to harvest a few leaves for the basket, really just trying to open up this space as well. But they have these like beautiful white stalks, and once I've washed them, I'll try and get some nice pictures of them, but they're like, they're not that damaged either or anything. So it is just a really nice vegetable that you can be harvesting this time of year, which is kind of in the hunger gap really. But these are probably too big. I'm definitely gonna have to cook these, and a bit like spinach, they do sort of shrink as you cook them. So over here on this bed, I've got some red onions. I started in January, the variety called Red Baron, and growing really well. They were getting picked at by the birds because they were almost like little grass shoots when you first plant them out. But they seem to be thickening up now, and the birds aren't as interested, which is good. But really happy with that. Now over here is interesting. I've got my lettuces, which I'll do sort of a quick harvest of in a minute, and some rocket growing. But what I'm noticing is that here, I'll do a bit of a close-up, things aren't growing as well. Everything's a bit smaller, everything's a little bit further behind. But then 10 inches this way, everything is growing really abundantly. I'm not sure what the difference is. The only slight difference on this bed is that there is this kind of cattle fence arch that I made where I grow my peas up, and maybe that's slightly shading it, so maybe it's just getting a little bit less sort of dry. It's not getting as dried out, but yeah, really not sure what's going on there. I'm a bit worried there's something in the ground that maybe is nibbling on the roots. Sometimes you can get these vine weevil is a pest which can sort of kill plants, so I've just got to be a little bit mindful of that. And if you're digging through your soil and you see them, do take them out, leave them out for the birds to eat, because you don't really want those in your soil. Now here are the broad beans, and the broad beans I was getting a little bit worried about back in the sort of late winter and things, but they are definitely coming through now. All of them are flowering, which is basically a really good indicator I'm going to get lots of broad beans off these. They're not quite as tall as I was expecting. Last year I had sort of 4-foot broad beans, whereas these are much smaller, but I'm not worried at all. Now the one thing I do need to do is stake them, and I'm going to quickly do that. There you go. That's all there is to it. It's just bamboo canes and some twine. The reason it's really important to stake the broad beans is eventually when they start podding up, getting quite heavy, some of them can fall over. And if you've got plants like I've got here, carrots growing next to them, that can be a bit of a problem. But also they can snap, and the whole stem and your harvest can sort of perish. So important to do it now. And the key with staking is do it earlier rather than later. So as these things are growing and branches are maybe poking out, I just sort of poke them back in, and that's all there is to it. Now, next to the broad beans, I've got a very weak row of carrots growing here. Not very many of them germinated, and I think maybe we've just not had the right conditions for them. Next to that, I've got a row of more golden Detroit beetroot that I'm giving a go. I'm a bit worried it's going to bolt in the summer, but I had some seeds, so we decided to go for it. I've then got my Musselburgh leeks, which are in the ground now, possibly a bit early, but I'm going to leave them there and see how they do. And over there, I've got some more carrots as well. Before I go on any further, lots of people ask me about this arch that I've got between the two beds. Basically, mounted to the beds are sort of 4 posts, 2 there and 2 there, and then this sort of, I think this is called cattle fencing or something like that. I basically have just zip tied it to the posts basically, and then sort of bent it, and it kind of holds its structure, so you can kind of bend it and get a shape. And then yeah, my plan is as last year to grow lots and lots of peas up here. So I'm not going to hang around too much on this bed. This is the garlic bed, and I've got a beautiful elephant garlic growing here, and I'll get you nice close with that. It's easily as big as like a sort of medium-sized leek now, and it's still got a way to go. So I'm hoping for a really big elephant bulb. The seed bought garlic, Solent White, is doing really well. A little bit of rust on the leaves, but I'm not concerned. It will sort of power through that. However, the weird and wonderful harvest I talked about at the beginning of the video is going to come from this store-bought garlic, which is basically, I'm not sure what variety it is. It's on the label of, from the supermarket that I bought it in, it was grown in China. So I'm growing it here, obviously in the UK, and it seems some weird stuff's going on. So compared to the other garlic, this stuff is a mess. Like, there are just bits and pieces firing out all over the place. Each plant looks worse than the next one. It's a real mess. But what I am noticing is these things here, which is a garlic scape or garlic flower. Now what you want to do is you want to cut these off so that the plant focuses its energy into growing the bulb, but you can harvest them and eat them. And I saw a TikTok about turning it into pesto, so I'm going to give that a go. So the final bed in the vegetable garden, the one we're going to look at before we go and look at what's growing undercover and what's going on in the allotment, is pretty much my strawberry bed. So I've got a couple broad beans in front, and then I've got these beautiful strawberries, which are just sort of flowering now, which is really nice, really good sign. And story with these strawberries is when I signed up the allotment, first person I spoke to at the allotment offered me some spare strawberry plants they had. So I graciously accepted, and yeah, growing strawberries now. Now, before we go off to the sort of undercover area and then the allotment, I had to show you what's going on here. And on my plum tree, really exciting, I've got my first teeny tiny plums. And this is the first year, so I could take the plums off and get the tree to focus into, establishing its roots and leaves. But there's only about 5 plums there. So I think I'm just going to let them grow, and at least maybe I'll get 5 plums this year, and hopefully next year a lot more. What we've also got going on here is the chives. The chives are starting to flower, and they've got the beautiful sort of allium, sort of pink pom-pom flowers to come. Really looking forward to that. My rather damaged looking shade is all sage is also flowering, and one thing I couldn't help but point out is my foxgloves as well, which I grew from seed last January. Now, this video is going to go on for ages if I go through everything I've got growing undercover, but I'm going to go through a couple of the highlights. So first here, these beautiful squash plants I've started off from seed back in April, Burgess Buttercup, and these are going to be going at the allotment. We'll talk a bit more about those in a minute. The other highlight I really want to talk about is this determinate tomato I've got, which is already flowering its little heart out. So the variety's Gardener's Pearl, not Gardener's Delight. That's a very common one and very popular, but this is Gardener's Pearl, and I'm just bringing them outside to sort of harden them off a bit. They have been in the conservatory, but growing spectacularly well. And also, one other sort of highlight is my semi-determinate, and I've never grown a semi-determinate variety of tomato before, but this is Marmonade, I think, is the variety, and you can grow these outdoors, which is what kind of appealed to me when I was looking at the seed packet. But a nice stocky sturdy tomato, and it's been outside in this unheated sort of plastic greenhouse for the last month. So yeah, quite hardy and just easy growing, so really looking forward to seeing how this goes. So here at the allotment, and some things are going really well. I've been having lots of sort of spinach and lettuce and radishes from here throughout sort of April, which is really good. I'm just going to harvest another one of my radishes / turnips because, again, like I said, I've got a bit sick of eating them. So they're all very large sort of thing, but That can go in the basket. Um, Harvest some couple of lettuce leaves, and I'll show you this rocket as well up close, because stuff is really good as well. And you know, you can just sort of snap bits of leaves off, throw it into a salad, and it adds that nice sort of like peppery taste. But honestly, this allotment here so far, everything's going quite well, except for one thing, and that one thing is bindweed. This stuff here, you know, it grows and grows and grows, and you pull it off and you hear it snap. Like, God knows how long the roots go on, but it just comes back. So I'm picking this stuff off as we go, but two of the beds, that one and that one, I've decided to cover with black plastic, and I'm going to cut holes in the plastic and plant pumpkins in them just for this year, because I cannot keep on top of the weeds of, you know, all 4 beds working full time and things. So that's sort of my strategy, and I'll just show you the other bed up close as well. So this bed here was going to be a sweet corn bed, but I'm not sure if I planted the sweet corn too early, in which case I might have to try direct sowing it a bit later on in this month. But I've planted some nasturtiums here, they're doing really well. And over here is some dill that I grew from seed, and it's doing really well. It seems to really like this spot. I think it likes the sun and the warmth, so yeah, doing really well. But the sweet corn seems to be, since planting it here, not doing that well. So we'll see how it gets on, but I might have to direct sow. So I couldn't end a tour video without looking at the blueberry bush, and it is flowering its heart out. There are loads and loads of flowers all over the bush, completely covered, and what that means is hopefully I'll get loads and loads of blueberries as well. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you do like this sort of video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon for more videos.